Also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned in to my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Friday at primetime drive time out of my NBC News radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.5, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming, of course, everywhere, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Tiki Live, you name it, iTunes, iHeartRadio, because I'm everywhere. Spreading, splattering, wanting you to be happy 88% of the time. So with topics and guests to that end, if you've missed any of my past shows, anywhere from Marianne Williamson to Marianne from Gilligan's Island to all the teachers of The Secret, just about, and almost all the cast of Happy Days. Please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. We're at now 228,000 people watching, listening, and enjoying. And I'm so grateful to all of you for making this my 9th year. We're into my 9th year now, and 472nd consecutive week on the air and on camera, and a little applause. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the show when I invite you to my balance bar, ways in which you can interact and stay with me during the week, as well as the Asian Oprah giveaway. So make sure you stay to the end of the show. And today I am delighted to have another friend of my favorite publicist, Harlan Ball, who supplies me with a plethora of interesting people. And today is no exception. I have a celebrated author, Michael Shevak, and I apologize if I didn't get that right. We'll get it right when you come on. He's created 2 books with 2 different approaches to mental and spiritual well-being in a time in our history when Americans are the most vulnerable to breaking down. He was a professor in a number of schools. He can talk about that. He has a plethora of advice for all of us that I'm just delighted to hear. So please welcome to my studio. Can you tell I like validation?
Thank you. I like to be validated too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. How do you pronounce your last name?
Shevak.
Shevak. Okay. And I just found something out doing a little research that I didn't know when I booked you, is you're a rabbi.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. You didn't present that way. So how did that happen?
Well, sometimes what happens if I'm writing a mainstream spiritual book, there is a little bit of prejudice, and people will think that I'm tribal, insular, all about law, all about guilt, and that I have no spirit, because that's reserved only for Christians, but that's not the case. So sometimes it's not uncommon to just leave rabbi out because it confuses people. If I'm writing something which is theological on that's Jewish, or that deals with Muslims and Christians, who I do a lot of interreligious work, I just leave. It doesn't confuse people there, and it's wanted.
Wonderful. So you didn't know this because I didn't realize the connection, but my mom was unofficially adopted by a Russian Jewish woman. So I have a grandma Anna, I have an Aunt Penny, Uncle Moishi, and I know how to hide the matzah.
I think look, it's really great. You're part of my tribe. I'm Russian, Ukrainian kind of thing, and that's really great to have you in the family.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell us, well, I always like to go back to the beginning. So before we talk about both books, what did you know that you were going to be doing this? Did you know, like, tell me a little of that funny story, so to speak.
I didn't know really anything. I just knew at a very, very early age that there was some kind of mystery in life. I remember walking down a country road in New Jersey. My grandparents owned a house that we all went out of, the low-income housing projects to this house in the summer so we could breathe some air.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking down that road at the earliest age, and I was tiny. I mean, I was 4 or 5 years old. You could walk a road back then without people getting really weird. And I remember hearing a voice in my left ear, and it was an adult voice. It wasn't a child's voice. And it said, "Why am I here? Why am I here? What is the purpose?" It said, "What is the purpose of this all? What is the purpose of life?" And I tell you, I was 4.5, 5 years old.
Wow. Wow.
So that was a deep spiritual experience that set me on a path, which I didn't even know I was on. I'm not particularly religious, meaning I am not into the religion, but I became intensely spiritual. I kind of didn't know I was doing it. They didn't have words like spiritual path back then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I kind of invented a kind of magical path to becoming more than I was in my own mind.
Hmm.
And I remember doing it at the earliest age, and then just kind of following it one tiny step at a time, reinventing the rules, learning how it worked. And I didn't know that I was actually learning how to be alive.
Interesting. Now, were your parents encouraging of this? Were you seen like as a weird child?
I was definitely a weird child.
Okay.
There was no doubt about it. I was a weird child, but I kept everything very private and very personal. In fact, when I got to the age of 16, I wasn't fitting into the world very well. So I found myself a really good therapist who I'm still in touch with. He's 85 years old. We're friends now. He's 85. I'm an older guy too. And I didn't eat lunch. I took my lunch money and I gave it to the therapist because I knew I wasn't fitting into life. And I did not know what the problem was. I had great parents. I had friends. I had almost everything, but I did not feel like fitting in.
So give me an example of that. Only because I'm sure people's who felt like you ears are perking up right now. So
I just, when I don't know how to get specific about it. I don't dwell in the past very much.
Okay.
But when I would converse with people, I would ask normal questions for me.
Like
no, I would make a comment or a normal, I would just respond like me. And they would look at me like there was that I wasn't even speaking English.
So in an analytical way, I'm just trying to get at
it wasn't an analytical way. It was something different. My grandmother said when I was born very old.
So the wise old soul. My daughter's like that.
And I was born very old. And that I just was having an enormous amount of time dealing with youth because I was kind of waiting for my body to catch up with who I was. And, I really think that that's exactly true. Because I feel so in my skin now for the first time in my life. I feel like who I am is actually matching who I am.
Right. You're not doing a reverse Benjamin Button thing, though.
Not interested.
Okay, good.
I'm not interested in that. And even that movie didn't make sense to me because if he was reversing, he should have become a baby but stayed big. Instead he shrunk.
Yeah. Okay. So you're an analyzer, right? I'm a
thinker.
A big analyzer.
I'm a thinker.
You're definitely a thinker.
Yeah.
And so your thought brought you to the point of Like, so what are you thinking about this pandemic? Like, how are you processing this? Is that how books came out?
I'm not having difficulty processing it.
Okay.
I did have one intense experience that was due to the COVID.
Okay.
I'm usually a very active person, and I can keep going, and I can multitask and multitask and multitask. There was a point, but all the distractions were peeled off of my life during COVID.
Yeah.
There was one afternoon when I had nothing to do. I couldn't run out and get a slice of pizza. There were things that I couldn't do to distract myself. And a cloud just came over me, and I felt a wave of depression, like despair and death depression that I have never felt in my entire life, because depression is not my nature. And it was so dark and so scary and so gloomy and despairing. And when it came, I went, oh my God, what is that? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was. Mm-hmm. But I said, so when things happen like that, I just say a little prayer. I said, give me a download here. My operating system needs an update. And so
I asked for my cookies to be deleted a lot.
Yeah, I just decided to take a walk and walk it out. By the time I got back to my house, the despair had lifted. But by 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt like a complete change. I felt like the left side of my body had punched out, like there was a new birth taking place. So I've come to understand that as, that I must have been covering up a lot of fear with extra activity. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that when that was removed, whatever was underneath that was fueling, someone who is like an overachiever. Mm-hmm. What was underneath began to, percolate up. And so I was very happy from the experience, but that was my only experience from COVID that personally affected me. Mm-hmm. I actually found it very grounding because I could remove all the distractions and mm-hmm. really get a sense of who I was in my home and my life and myself.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's talk about the book, whichever one you want to. Which one did you do first? So
Soul Lessons from the Wizard of Oz was written first.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because that was the one that caught my eye. So, yeah. I could take guesses about the witches and all of that, but what you tell me.
Look, the book had fascinated me since I was a child. Mm-hmm. I read the books because the movie, of course, was gripping. I even remember getting the color television for the first time and actually seeing when you look outside the door of her little cabin from Kansas and seeing the color as the camera moved through the door. Right. I thought that was amazing. But there was something that the story had always been speaking to me on some level. And I didn't really know what it was. It was kind of implanting little seeds in my subconscious mind. And over the decades, as I got more and more spiritual knowledge from my journey, it began to kind of assemble. And then one day, after reading a couple of articles that happened to appear on the Wizard of Oz in Psychology Today, about a year from that time, it just kind of burst out. It was an understanding of that story was hatched whole. It just kind of went, oh my God, that's what it's about. And I instantly had to get to what was called back a typewriter. There might not be people who know about that, but and the book just flew on the meaning of the Wizard of Oz, and the story for me turned out to be the most incredibly delicious way to understand the human spiritual path of being here on Earth and what we have to achieve emotionally, psychologically, and even physically in order to benefit and integrate all of the different dynamics that are part of being human. And the story just just unveiled its knowledge, and the characters were like mirrors of pieces of ourselves that we've got to master. And that's what happened.
Give me an example.
We are all Dorothy. Dorothy comes. We're all Dorothy. Dorothy, male or female, we're all Dorothy. Dorothy comes from the Greek, which means a gift of God. She's a soul. You know, and all of us are born in basic Kansas. We're all toilet trained. We're all conditioned. It's black and white. It's this or that. Do this, don't do this. If you do this, you're bad. If you do this, you're good. And it's always black and white, black and white, black and white, black. And the family corrals you, and they kind of shepherd your body because you were born from them, and you have to learn these boundaries in material life. They're like the corrals that were in the farm, Auntie Em and Uncle Henry's farm. Okay? And we're corralled by this. But there comes a time in everyone's life, it's human, where we have to look beyond the barnyard. We got to go from Kansas, you know, black and white, dusty, corralled, penned in, you know, with our soul being, our spirits trying to be squelched, you know, our totem animals, our totem spirits, like, you know, Toto being put into a basket by Elvira Gulf, who's going to destroy our vital spirits. And there comes a time where we have to say, I can't stay in Kansas. And the first step is you got to believe there's someplace over the rainbow. You got to believe that there's someplace beyond Kansas. By the way, with all respect and love for the great people of Kansas, I am not maligning you in any way. You know? So we have to go from Kansas. We got to believe there's something bigger than Kansas. We've never known there's something. And then we have to take the step to a different state of consciousness, which isn't ordinary. It's extraordinary. It's what makes us spiritual beings. And that's the Oz state of consciousness.
Interesting. And if you've just tuned in and you're listening to things that sound like the Wizard of Oz, it's because it is. I'm here with celebrated author Michael Shevak, and you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And we're talking about your life, my life, his life, and the parallels or the story of the Wizard of Oz and how that captures our own journey through life. And so now we're at, okay, we got to believe that there is an Oz, that there's something more than Kansas, without insulting Kansanians, that there's a better place. So my one weird thought goes to, see, I'm a weird thinker too. It goes to how the Oz state that you're talking about is different than the American dream state that is sold to us by society and the family that you grew up in. So I'm guessing that there's a distinction between that material, make enough toys that your relatives squabble over when you die kind of reason for being, and the Oz that you're talking about. So is there another place that represents that?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
That's the realm of imagination, of a child playing and imagining without even realizing what they're going to be when they grow up. It's that connectedness to color. You know, her first journey into Oz is colorful. It's the inner child that's in each of us. The munchkins that were running around, those wonderful munchkins, the Lullaby League and the Lollipop Guild and the mayor, they all represent what's on the inside of all of us. Once we begin to take the journey to understand our own spirituality and our own inner child, our own munchkin that's on the inside of us. And that's the realm where we begin to be creative and playful and wonder about the mystery of life. You know, as a rabbi, I'm going to base it without getting too teachy preachy. You know, we have a natural self, which is part of the planet, but we also have a supernatural self. And that's not spooky, superstitious kind of stuff.
Woo woo.
Supernatural means woo, 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 woo. It's supernatural is beyond merely nature, beyond just a physical life. We have imagination, we have fantasies, we can do things that other creatures cannot do because we have concept, we have the ability to invent things that nature doesn't do. And that realm of fantasy, Dorothy is released from the imprisonment of Kansas. She kills the witch of the East, she's the witch of attraction. She's the witch that has to be killed so Dorothy can feel good about beginning to expand. And the rest is real.
So that witch is part of you or outside of you?
Well, what is inside, what is outside is a very, very difficult discussion. But as you know, since you have had everyone on the show who has been in The Secret and everything like that, is that the inner reality does create the outer reality, and the outer reality reflects backwards into the inner reality, and they're both matched. So you could say that the Munchkins came and reflected to Dorothy that she should get in touch with her inner child. The witch that got killed was a reflection of the fact that Dorothy broke out of Kansas, and she had to, in a way, kill the shadow of herself that was afraid of leaving Auntie Em and Uncle Henry. She was terrified. She didn't want to leave home. And she had to break out of that. All of the characters in the story of The Wizard of Oz are mirrors of aspects of who we are as human beings. And we all have to learn this to have, well, what is your specialty, which is balance. Mm-hmm. It's all about, the whole story is about balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So if someone is looking to answer the question, what is the purpose of my life? You're offering. Oh, just put you for a second.
We just blinked up. The ruby slippers are about balance. That's what the ruby crystal is about. It's a balancing thing. It balances emotions. So we all on the yellow brick road of life, well, we have a scarecrow, which is our mind. We have a tin man, which is our heart. And we have a cowardly lion, which is our will. And we all hate these aspects. We're afraid of these aspects. We think we're dumb. We think we're heartless. We think we have no courage. But in fact, what happens is we do. Mm-hmm. And we have to balance these three mirrors of ourselves, our scarecrow, our tin man, and our cowardly lion, together with our Toto, which represents our fierceness and our barkingness and our vital selves physically. And by balancing these things on the yellow brick road, we become a complete human being. And that's how we get home. That's how we get home and realize, okay, Kansas isn't perfect, but there's a lot here.
So the integration is how we get home. The integration of the parts of us. Yes.
And that whole story of The Wizard of Oz with Dorothy as a soul is about her reflection to herself of all of these parts of her mind that she thought she was dumb, and her heart, which she didn't love enough. She even tore away from her aunt. Okay. Mm-hmm. And her constant fear that she doesn't have the courage to pursue this path and find her way home. And this is the story of all of us. You know, this is the story of all of us in life. We've got to learn that we are okay.
Mm-hmm. We are. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
And we have all of these faculties that are talents and wonderful powers that we can draw on so that we are complete and we fulfill ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You're preaching to the choir here. This is exactly has been my message for numbers of decades now, and I'm happy to hear that a professor that used to teach at the Iacocca School of Business and Spirituality agrees with me.
Yeah, I'm opening a door in case the internet connection was a little wobbly. Let me
Right.
see if that fixes it.
So
that's what it's about. It's about balancing.
Right.
It's about balancing our souls on all of those levels of human faculties, our mind, our heart, our spirit. Okay. And that's the story. And that's why they're soul lessons from the Wizard of Oz.
That's beautiful.
And it's simple.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. So someone who is asking themselves why, what is the reason, why am I here would benefit from reading the parallels in there and doing that search themselves is what I'm hearing.
So because everyone goes through this journey, everyone individuates. We all have to leave where we came from, declare ourselves to be an individual. And like Dorothy, sometimes we do it defiantly.
Right.
And we have guilt.
Uh-huh.
We run into Professor Marvel and all of a sudden we discover our guilt and we run back to where we started because we are not comfortable with the change. And that guilt was so hard on Dorothy, it actually drove in the underground, in the cellar, which is her subconscious mind. And then she had this whirlwind of a cyclone that propelled her to a completely new place where she had to go. So we all have this experience of guilt, and we all have this experience of tearing away, okay, and having to come back. It's the story of the prodigal son in the New Testament. You tear away from where you were, you act it out in order to get some lessons, and then you come home saying, okay, I know something now I didn't know before.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. So tell me about 6. Now, 6 is not usually a number that is necessarily seen, especially 666, but you wrote another book that is about 6. So tell us about 6.
Well, Oz was the development of what I needed to teach people in a very simple way, that there's a living, beautiful, spiritual life force that's always propelling us down the yellow brick road. But the next question that arose is, how do you help people engineer their lives so that they can be successful, so they can have good, okay, an experience of good, because God, the word God is just a contraction for the word good.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And when you are in alignment, so your inner world and your outer world are beginning to match, okay, you can bring yourself an experience of good, which old-fashioned religious people called God's blessing. Or you bring yourself challenges, which old-fashioned religion called God's curses. So I wanted to give a simple guideline on how to construct your life so you don't keep falling into pitfalls, and we could create a more successful life, not just, by the way, as individuals, but as individuals and as a family, as community, as a nation, because all of the spiritual boundaries, the ropes that we have to learn from life, they're the same boundaries, whether you are a nation making decisions and sowing and reaping, or whether you're an individual making decisions and sowing and reaping, okay, or whether you're in your marriage or whether you're with family. These are the same spiritual boundaries. And if you don't know how to construct your life according to these spiritual boundaries, well, you're going to learn them because you're going to make every mistake in the book to learn it. But how much easier it would be if someone gave you an owner's manual for your soul.
So that's what this book is, an owner's manual for your soul.
Yes.
To avoid stepping on someone's foot spiritually, or
stepping on your own foot spiritually.
Okay, so give me an example of the most common way that people are stepping on their foot spiritually.
I'll give you an example. It happens. Okay. People work very, very hard. We're very, very hard. I'm a really great person. I'm really working hard. I'm providing for my family. They make some money, they save some money, and they wind up in a hospital, and all the money winds up paying for the hospital bills. From a spiritual point of view, you could blame it on this insurance, that insurance, and that's all part of it. But from a spiritual point of view, that person was pushing their body too much. They were valuing the material success more than they were valuing their own physical balance. And ultimately, everything that they saved wound up paying for their body to recover. This happens all the time with hard things. Well, that's an improper balance. In the six fix, it's six fix. That's called value priority number one. After you have life, the most important value is health. And that's something, by the way, COVID is a perfect example about that. It's not, and these lessons are not just for individuals, they are for nations. They're the same spiritual laws. It's not government regulation or not regulation, or socialism versus capitalism, or banking this and investing this. These are all tools, okay?
These are all what?
Tools.
Tools, okay.
Healthy workers are the foundation of an economy. We have proven that successfully, right? When we don't have healthy workers, we don't have an economy.
Right.
Well, of course, the Greek word for economy is the same word for household. When we're not treating ourselves respectfully as household members, our economy goes awry. It's very simple. It's spiritual laws that are built into life. Another example, also economics, because people worry a lot about money.
Of course.
When you a couple of years back, when we had a financial nightmare, well, why did we have it?
2008.
It wasn't a problem. It was the result of a problem. The problem is someone came up with an idiotic idea that they sowed and reaped and brought ourselves, that they sowed it, we reaped it, of the idea of investments that were defaulted mortgage payments. They kind of pulled the defaulted mortgage payments together, created an investment, and made people invest in it. It had no life value. The six fix is all about life-centered values, things that enhance life, because life is the miracle. And so, of course, what happens is you build an economy on defaulted loans that have no life value. After that spiritual power is used up, which is very little, the whole thing crashes. Well, it isn't a mistake. It's the result of a mistake. We built up economic tools that had no life value. No life value. Okay? So there are priorities in the six fix. There's value priorities and relationship priorities. And there's simple guidelines by which you can organize your life and your nation and your community and your family so that it works. And
so sorry, go ahead.
What are you saying? So what?
So what would you advise our current administration using this guidebook with these lessons? What are we doing that is a consequence of broken values or are symptomatic of something that isn't working? What has to change? Well,
again, it's your platform. It's balance. Okay? It's your value priority number 4 is wisdom. Right now we've become an opinionocracy. Everyone has an opinion, and it's your opinion against my opinion, but there's no wisdom. Okay. And wisdom requires care. It requires truth. And it also requires the preciousness of balance. So I think we're doing very well by getting people healthy, because you can't have an economy without value priority number 1, which is health. But I also think we need relationship priority number 1, which is taking care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right there with you.
The oxygen mask goes on you first before you take care of anyone else.
Yeah. And I've got like 6 things I want to say, but we have to take a break right now because I have to thank the sponsors who make this show possible. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. So we'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out, world peace through interviews.
Dr. Marissa here, ready to drive a car that was designed with you in mind? Using patented technology, Mazda is focused on creating a human-centric vehicle, and Capistrano Mazda is ready to put you in the driver's seat. Family-owned and operated, Capistrano Mazda gives you a mileage guarantee. When you buy your new Mazda, you become part of their family. So visit capomazda.com today like I did, and now I can't stop smiling with my fabulous new Mazda MX-5 convertible Miata.
You are tuned in to my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Friday primetime drive time, 3 p.m. Pacific time here in sunny California, out of my CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, kcaaradio.com, covering 5 million homes here in Southern California and 100 countries everywhere around the world through streaming and the magic of technology. And I'm so glad that you're here again, my 472nd consecutive week on the air, on camera. And today's guest is celebrated author Michael Shevak. And he has been comparing not only our lives to The Wizard of Oz, but now a roadmap for ourselves and for our country. And we just talked about values, the values that are maybe not forefront for our country, forefront for ourselves. And the first one you said was health. So everything stems back to the number one, which is health. How, though, can you, if people are not taking responsibility for their own health, no matter what you say, no matter what you, I mean, the war on obesity, the war on, all this, cancer. I had Fran Drescher come on and talk about reducing your risk of cancer. We've got 1 and 2 and 1 and 3. We've got diabetes, we've got heart disease, we've got all of these, and then COVID, obviously overloading every possible medical institution that we have. But it comes down to, and at the risk of sounding discriminating, when they first was offering the vaccine, they were saying these are the health conditions that if you have them, you can get a vaccine first. And some of them were things that, nobody puts a gun to your head to, eat things that are not healthy. And then you say, well, you really can't blame a person for eating a lot of fast food because that's cheaper than healthy food. And now we've got a society that's all about, the quick fix or the quick food or the instant this and the instant that. So it's, for me, and as positive as I am supposed to be, hashtag positively opinionated, there is some level of, if that's your first value proposition, what is the percentage? What are our chances when we have so much not health habits in our country?
Yeah, well, it's not a matter of percentages. I'm seeking a spiritual shift for people to realign their culture and their thinking. Life is going to be your teacher. If you're not eating healthy and you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to get a kick in the butt and you're going to get sick. And you have to think, oh my God, I'm a victim, or what did I do that contributed to this? When people get their wake-up calls, they change their habits. They sow, they reap it. They do it not correctly according to the way life is aligned and the priorities in life. They experience the negative thing. I'm trying to get people to say, wake up. Life teaches you're not taking care of your health and you get sick. Life teaches you the economy isn't functioning when you create a ridiculous mode of investment. Wake up. We're in a spiritual reality that we create our dream or our nightmare. Mm-hmm. Don't take my word for it. These are the boundaries in life. You slowly have to go through the process of reorganizing your life so that you can fulfill how life works. Life works for good. And there are simple 6 fix boundaries that if you learn them and bring them into your awareness and your consciousness and implement them, you will have a better life. And you have to learn it. No one can do it for you. No government can do it for you, especially in a democracy, which is a government for the people. I'd like to just lay out the priorities really simply.
Please.
In everything you think, say, and do, seek health first, peace second, in everything you think, say, and do, seek freedom. Seek wisdom. Okay? Seek the expression of your full potential. Always seek the expression of your full potential. And last, it's important, prosperity, including money, because money is a wonderful spiritual tool of transformation, and you should have it. Now, you should seek health, peace, freedom, wisdom, the expression of your full potential, and prosperity for yourself first, and also for another, and also for all others, groups. Democrats should wish it for Republicans, and Republicans should wish it for Democrats, right? All others, future generations. We have to stop being so myopic and think about our decisions beyond us. All life and creation, you know, we live off of the planet. We share the bodies of other animals that help keep us alive. We have to consider them and us. And no one here, Dr. Marissa, is perfect. But once you get these boundaries in place, these life ropes, we just seek continuous improvement and continuous improvement. And if you have a goal in you that seeks constantly improvement, whether you make mistakes or not, well, a spiritual power will be with you. It will be grace, providence, God, spirit. You choose your word for it. Synchronicity.
I call it my UPS man, my universal power source.
Your universal power source. I call it the Cosmic Coincidence Coordination Center.
Oh, cool. Cool. UPS and CCC.
That's right. So the important thing is to be devoted to continuously growing and progressing and learning how to live according to these life boundaries. I didn't make them up. I learned them by suffering.
Right.
And when I went back with my little analytical mind and I said, aha, what happened here? Right. I suddenly began to realize that there were boundaries and channels and ways things worked. And I just had to reparent myself.
So do you think though that this is even teachable? And I say that, you know, with all due respect, because you had to learn it the hard way.
That's why I wrote the book.
Okay. So, but, and I'm going to go back to 2 points, and we're almost at the end already because I knew we would run out of time. The one point is you say freedom. And the first thing that comes is right now we've got epic issues because everybody thinks they have the freedom of speech. They have the freedom to say anything they want. And as you said earlier than that it's everybody has an opinion. But everyone thinks their opinion is the truth that you're using with a capital T. How do you deal with this entire craziness where we've got everybody at odds saying this is the truth? This is what's happening.
Oh,
this
easy.
is my opinion, but my opinion is the truth.
It's easy.
Okay.
You have to teach humility.
But they don't have humility.
And they need to learn it, and they're going to learn it. They will learn it.
Those that marched on Capitol Hill, they're not going to learn it. They're not learning.
There will be some who will suffer more because they are going to learn it harder. But we all have to learn it. There isn't a single person here that knows everything. Do you know anyone who knows everything?
No, but I do know people who think they know everything. And that's my point, Michael.
You have to surround them with other people who think differently.
They don't want you to surround them. They don't want their minds changed. They don't care what you think. They think you're wrong.
That's okay.
Well, no, it's not okay, because how then are we ever going to get to a place where we don't have that kind of polarity?
When the culture, I work with blue people, I work with red people. Okay. I am not afraid of extremes. When each one begins to see the truth in the other person's opinion, a true spiritual center forms, right? It doesn't happen when you're banging each other, but whenever there's an enemy, they are teaching you something that has value. Even your worst enemy back to the Wicked Witch. Your worst enemy is teaching you something. You have to be willing to listen. Now, a lot of people won't. They're going to have to suffer the way they suffer. But you have 300 million plus people here. Okay. Let's create a true spiritual majority and get America working again, meaning back to the spiritual principles that the enlightened philosophers created to create this country in the first place. It's based on a spiritual model. It's not based on an opinionocracy.
Well, slavery is or was.
It's based on natural law. And slavery, the one that we had, was a real perversion of that.
It was not a spiritual law.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. I was just
It was a perversion.
Yeah. So
right? It's a completely different slavery than the slavery that's in the Old Testament, where you had to let the slave go if you hurt them. Do you know what I mean? Because the slave was God's child.
Yeah.
I mean, the model we had was a Greco-Roman slavery. It was a brutal slavery. That's not natural law. That was brutal human domination for economic advantage.
So a country that is based on that principle, how do you move from there?
You re-educate.
We're reaping it now. We're reaping it now.
I know, but people are suffering. We went from an economy that was hyper inflated to one that's smashed down because of COVID. We have to learn to regroup and see that every time we have an economic disaster, it's because we're sowing and reaping bad spiritual actions that come back to us, including COVID. And I'm biblically based, so I'm going to tell you every single time there is a plague, it's because the human mind has become so overly dominant and thinking they're in charge of everything that nature or God, the creator, you choose your word, comes in and puts us right in our place to get us to wake up. Puts human beings right in their place because we're messing things up.
Yeah.
There are spiritual laws that are governing this, and they are not.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I just am questioning the ability for that truth to be drank. That's all.
Well, before I became a rabbi, which was 30 years ago, and before I started teaching spirituality, I was an ad man. Okay. And I was a madman. I created Gillette, the best a man can get, and a lot of famous Apple computer campaigns. And the 6 Fix I wrote like a spiritual ad man. It's simple. It's so easy. Okay. And it's that kind of ease that I wanted to get out. That anyone could read, and you can teach it to anyone who's as young as 5 years old. It's that easy.
Cool. So how do people get a hold of your books?
The bookstore that you love, go ahead and say, give me Soul Lessons from the Wizard of Oz. I'll say it again. Soul Lessons from the Wizard of Oz, or the 6 Fix, which is the 6 Fix, spiritual health care for a stronger America. The 6 Fix and Soul Lessons from the Wizard of Oz. And all I can do is my share to help make it better. And this show helps.
Thank you. So
Thanks for balance.
6 Fix and lessons.
So the 6 Fix, spiritual health care for a stronger America, and Soul Lessons from the Wizard of Oz, how to follow your yellow brick road.
Okay.
And of course, feel free to dial up Amazon. It's very easy. And go to the websites, Oz Soul Lessons, OzSoulLessons.com, or 6fixamerica.com.
There we go. I just put it in the ticker tape. That's why I was asking.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So last question I ask all my guests, what or whom are you most grateful for?
Oh, I am most grateful to God.
I would have guessed that.
I've never met him. I've never met her. I've never met it. I don't know if he actually exists because I've never met him. But the mystery of life that has brought me here, I'm so, so, so thankful for it.
Mm.
Life is good. We just have to learn how it operates. We got to learn the ropes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michael Shevak, for coming to my studio. I hope you all go, and Asian Oprah giveaway today is a ebook copy of I can't remember which one Harlan sent me, but one of the books, if not both. So go to drmarissa.life and put in the pop-up the subject line The Wizard of Oz. We'll just use that as the promo code, and I'll get that book to you. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining me.
Thank you so very much, and keep up the good work. We need you.
Thank you.
We need
you too. We need you too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao. All right, and we're at the end of the hour. It goes fast every time. I wanted to invite you all to, let's see, number of things. One is, if you haven't heard yet, I actually have my first short film out, and I'm going to play a little trailer for you so that you can see what I've been up to. What if conforming to the world was exploring the world? What if the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, little girl, turns into how many streets of life you have to explore? What if the purpose of life is not to die with the most toys to leave our squabbling relatives? What if the purpose of life was to do things that we enjoy most of the time, have relationships that we enjoy most of the time, and use our unique talents, gifts, and abilities to fully express in the dash between birth and death? What if, as a direct result of this horrible pandemic, we could rise out of the ashes with a new PPP, post-pandemic possibilities? The sooner you turn "it's impossible" to "I'm possible," the what ifs become possible too. Because you are loving, lovable, and loved, wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. But it may start with getting out of bed and making it. What if starts with you? And that was the trailer. If you enjoyed that, let me know. I am now working through all the licensing, but we have some complimentary copies to anyone who donates to my nonprofit. I think most of you know 8 Ways to Happiness 501c is a direct result of my hashtag COVID silver lining. I never had time to put that together, but it is a nonprofit that helps young teens and young adults and kids who have temporarily forgotten about their birthright to happiness. So if you want to help with that, it's a $10 that discounts to $8.88 donation, and you get a free copy of the film, as well as if you want to donate $25, you get a copy of my children's book, Mommy, What Are Feelings? And that is also a donation item. Please, if you're temporarily without funds, but you're still shopping on Amazon, if you use Amazon Smile and put in 8 Ways to Happiness, you will help me out with that. And that's it for today. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got next week, we're talking about AAPI, Stop AAPI Hate, with 2 great leaders, as well as the following week, I have Hank Garrett, who you may remember in his fight scene with Robert Redford. He was in the Where Are You Car 52. So that's in 2 weeks. Please stay tuned to take my advice. I'm not using it. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.
Dr. Marissa, aka the Asian Oprah, says the most important thing you can choose is choosing to be happy.
You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa.
That's the idea for Dr. Marissa Pay's new book called 8 Ways to Be Happy.
Many of us say, I am my own worst critic. Nobody's harder on me than I am. And my response to that is, stop it! Why are you doing that to yourself? You have to be your biggest fan, because if you can't at the end of the day say, I did a good job, who is? We don't have to constantly be angry at the things that are wrong. Why don't we choose to be happy about things that are right? We have the choice. That's our muscle. And life is so amazing if we can see it.